Our team at Atlantic Construction Podcast is excited to announce our newest partner, Luminous Labs. Luminous Labs is the leading provider of architectural visualizations for developers, homeowners, architects, and more. Luminous Labs has a team of experienced designers and visualizers using cutting-edge technology to bring your 3D renderings to life. Using these architectural visualizations will give you a sense of scale, space, and design, allowing you to make informed decisions about your projects before construction even begins. These high-end architectural visualizations are a perfect tool for presentations, marketing materials, and design reviews, allowing you to communicate your vision to stakeholders, clients, and more. This episode is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Pezant Building Products. Pezant Building Products has been providing contractors and builders with the supplies necessary to complete their jobs since 1964. They have built a reputation of honest, helpful, and quality service, serving the HRM for the last 58 years, now with 7 locations in Nova Scotia and 1 in New Brunswick. Our team at Atlantic Construction Podcast is extremely excited to announce our new co-branded partner, Procore. Procore is the global leader in construction management software. We'll be conducting several podcast episodes with Procore users and construction companies across the country in 2023, among many other things. Stay tuned. We're excited. Yeah, so let's dive in. Dwaine, we were talking earlier just about your 17 years with Trinity, and a long time in construction even before that, since you were 16, and you mentioned about Trinity focusing on cellulose insulation for the start, obviously now doing all kinds of services in Division 7. And maybe you can kind of walk us through a little bit of the birth of the company and the journey.
Yeah, so 2006 is when we were incorporated. Before that, like I said, my uncle had a construction company based out of Pictou County, and we did a lot of work at Michelin, Nova Scotia Power. We did a lot of industrial cleaning services. We did asbestos abatement, and then the other side of the business was the re-insulation for. So if we did asbestos removal at a boiler at Nova Scotia Power, we were back in there re-insulating it with mineral wool or whatever.
So was that Roxel products back then too?
It was
different. Yeah, they always kind of had that.
Oh, they've always been there, exactly. Yeah. So that was basically what got me into the industry, to a little bit of experience. And in 2006, I always knew that I was going to do something on my own. And in 2006, I had the opportunity, just the way life presents itself, I got the opportunity to look at doing something different. And I had my first 2 business partners that I had, they were from Pictou County, and they worked with me at Michelin. So when I decided to go out on my own, they approached me to see if we wanted to team up, and basically they were helping me get off the ground. They were a major starting point for Trinity. So we carried on. We were going to do asbestos removal and still do the industrial work and the commercial work that I did. And at the time there was a little bit of a downturn, and with the new business and that, it was a little hard to get into. Was that around 08, were you saying, or is this further up? Early 2007.
Okay, right.
And then it wasn't taking off like I thought with the asbestos and the other places. And one night I just decided to look into on the internet. I remember I was sitting in front of the computer trying to find new things to do in the industry, and I found this stuff called spray foam. So I got looking into that night, and I still remember because it was midnight and I was talking to the salesman. He's always impressed me to that day because it was
still answering the phone.
He's still answering the phone.
True salesman.
Yeah. And they got some education, and I went out to Ontario for some training, and I went down to Texas for some training, and we made the move. We bought our first piece of equipment for the spray foam. That was a very scary moment for me at the time. That was a $250,000 investment in a piece of equipment.
For one of those?
That's just for one spray foam truck, yeah.
Really? Yeah. Wow, that much.
Yeah, it's extremely expensive business to be involved in.
Right.
So we got that. We started doing the cellulose insulation in people's attics and existing homes, just topping up their walls, and then the spray foam let us open up the door to go to the basements and that. And along with the basement with the spray foam came the fireproofing that we had to do over top of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my little first exposure to the fireproofing. Then word started getting out. There was only 3 of us when the company started. And word started getting out that there's 3 young fellows out there in the industry doing some good work on houses and stuff. And a gentleman stopped in. He was driving through Pictou County one night, and he stopped in and wanted to meet these 3 young fellas. And he told us, he said, there's this tender coming out. And he said, they're looking at insulating attics and basements on these houses. He said, you guys should put your name in. So we looked it up, and back then it was Conserve Nova Scotia is who was doing the tender. Okay. Conserve has later become Efficiency Nova Scotia. So we looked at the tender. They were basically just looking for attics and walls and basements to be insulated. We put the price in for it, and lo and behold, we won 50 homes. So wow. Fast forward until now, that same program, we've won it every time since. And now we do 600 to 700 homes under that one program for efficiency every year. So efficiency was a big stepping point for Trinity itself. It was a great industry to be in. It was good time to get into it with everything that was going on.
As you mean, like kind of the shift towards net zero kind of thing?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And the whole country was starting to look at it that way, but it was in its early stages. And what I started to notice, unfortunately, every time an election came up or something, it was being used as a political tool. So
the whole sustainability.
Exactly. And whether they're going to keep the funding, blah, 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 depending on what party gets in. So it was a good industry.
You were at the mercy of that in a way?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
I remember a few times, the first few elections that went on through those first few years.
Well, those votes meant a lot to you.
We were scared. We were scared, yeah. And because, I mean, they would talk, there was talk they'd pull the whole program away the next day. So, so that opened me up to saying, one of my vice presidents that look at Rodney Meisner, that looks after all every efficiency programs, we had a conversation and we decided to leave him in charge of looking after the efficiency program, and I was going to take the company and go back to my industrial and my commercial roots. Right. And try to get some reliance off that side, just in case something ever did.
So that's when you diversified into more commercial industrial with Trinity and big volume jobs.
Yeah. So, but I remember Bud McClellan with Rideau was one of the first gentlemen that called me. He was building a hotel in New Glasgow, and he needed the walls insulated. So I went in and I met him, and I priced the job. He got me the job. And I was just a young fellow, but Bud was extremely good to me. And he took me along with him and taught me a lot of things to do and a lot of things not to do, and taught me a few lessons, good and bad, along the way. But crucial to have somebody on your side that was older to make that leap, eh? And you know yourself, with your own experience, you get into some GCs, they don't care about you.
In fact, it's the opposite.
They're there to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And Bud never treated me like that, and a lot of other people he never did. And he supported me that way, and every time he got a big job at St. X or somewhere along, he'd call and take me along with him, and got me more training, and the insulation led into doing some fire stopping for him, and then the fireproofing aspect came when he got a big job at the Pictou County Wellness Center. He won that job, and at the exact same time, my supplier had lost their main installer for the province, or for the Atlantic provinces, for installing fireproofing.
So that's another big capital investment for those machines too, is it not?
Huge.
Even bigger.
Huge, yeah. So we got the opportunity, along with my supplier, I was buying the fireproofing to do the foam in the residential basements from them, and I was doing well with them, so they wanted me to expand to the commercial side of it, and they just lost their rep for the area. Bud had just gotten this job. He needed somebody in the area to do it, so it was just perfect timing for me. Yeah. My supplier came in and gave me some support to help training on it, and Bud was there supporting me on the GC side, and we got that job done. It's so funny because when Steve and I laugh about it now, like when I did that job, it was 4 or 5 of us there, and we were there for 6-7 months. And that was a big job to me.
Yeah.
And Steve's doing those same size jobs now in, I don't know, 2 weeks.
And probably 10 of them at the same time.
Right? So it's funny to see but I mean, you had to learn somewhere. You had to start somewhere. So we get into that, and we started doing more and more of the fireproofing and the fire stopping and such. And I always was into painting and stuff like that. So that led into the intumescent coatings and stuff with the fireproofing. And then it gave me the opportunity. We were getting big enough in Halifax, and I did some big jobs for Dexter's out at Otter Lake facility. And I started doing some big jobs around here. And
so were those industrial jobs for Dexter's?
Yeah. That was it was one of their
which is where you see those kind of in heavy on the spec with intermittent or fireproofing. You see a lot of that, right?
This one was the recycle plant out there.
Okay.
And there's so much steam and
Yes.
whatever byproduct coming off.
Thicker coating on the structural steel.
It rotted the steel, rotted the roof right off the place. They had to replace all the main members in the building and the roof. So they hired us to come in and put a layer of spray foam. Once they rebuilt everything, they put a layer of spray foam over top of everything, and we sprayed the ceramic fireproofing coating over top of it.
Okay.
And it's not there for the insulation value. It's there to protect the steel.
Right.
That's what it's doing. So that was a big eye opener. I learned a lot of lessons on that one.
I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but did you do the helipad? Did you guys do that one?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Didn't they do that in the last couple of years? Somewhere like where the jobbers come in at the QE2 or something, a bunch of coatings and.
Do you know about that?
Yeah. So we did a little bit of work up there.
You did? Okay. I don't know
sealants.
what made me think of that, but I think I helped price that or something at one point.
Possibly. We did some joint sealants there, and
but it was a big spray job for
it was
a lot of intermittent coatings.
It was supposed to be. They actually ended up getting eliminated.
Oh, did it?
So it ended up, there was now no.
So it wasn't
fire
very
protection.
clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent there.
So after that, I decided it was time to open up an office in Halifax because I was basically living and traveling every day up here anyway. And at that time, one of our other vice presidents, Jonathan Berkman, he was in the cellulose world, and he came on board with me under sales. But when we decided to open the office in Halifax, things really took off. So he became the vice president up here in Halifax and building this area. And
because you're from New Glasgow, right?
From New Glasgow, yeah. And once he started getting things going up here, that's what opened the door up with Steve. Steve and Jonathan know each other, and opened the door up. Steve came on, and Steve comes from the commercial drywall world, and then so he's used to that commercial avenue, but he came on board with us and started helping us run some of our projects, just everyday insulation and such. And then with his experience with the industrial side, we started building up the fireproofing and the fire stopping and such. And
you had pretty steady growth then all the way through, and especially probably lately, maybe the biggest jump.
I remember 2012, I think, was a 700% growth, and that was just
any profit left.
It's funny how they say you're growing so much, but the money's not growing either.
Not necessarily your bottom line, though.
Yeah,
but I'm sure you benefited from the fruits of that in the following years.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And so for the longest time, we stayed. Well, I guess just right up until before COVID, we were averaging consistently 75, 80 employees, and really since COVID now we've come to the last year. I think it was a year and a half ago, we were still at 85, and now we just hired our 125th. So
wow.
So it's been a crazy ride and a crazy ride, but it's going good and
amazing.
This is what's brought us to here today.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Dwaine. I mean, for you, Steve, must have been, a bit of a transition, but pretty smooth transition, I bet, from the drywall background and industrial stuff that you were involved with into Trinity. And how long ago was that when you came aboard?
I'll give you a quick little rundown. My story's a little not complex, but a little crazy, I guess. So I was when I was
that goes for all of us.
Exactly. So at a high school, I had extremely high marks. I had a full scholarship to go to UCCB then, but CBU now.
Okay.
And I went there for 2 years. I was going to be something in the medical field. My sister, my mother are nurses. I thought maybe I'd be a doctor or something along those lines.
Okay.
2 years into it, I'm like, yeah, this ain't for me.
Really?
So I decided to take a year off to figure out what I wanted to do. I was working as a stock boy in Sobeys at the time, and a back shift manager's job came up in Sydney Mines. I said, yeah, I'm off for a year. I might as well give it a shot, right? So,
And that's where you're from, Cape Breton.
yep, I'm from just outside of Glace Bay in a little town called Birch Grove. So I took that job. Sales went up 6% in the first 6 months. And in the Sobeys world, that's pretty big. Essentially, it was pretty simple math to me. You keep stuff on the shelf,
Right.
people buy the stuff, and you replace the stuff. So,
Yeah.
very simple formula. They offered me a job in Truro to be a grocery manager. And I was probably 21 at the time, I guess it would have been. And I said, well, why not? Let's give it a try. So that's how I got up to the mainland Nova Scotia anyway.
Okay.
So I came there with that. And I didn't really like what I was doing there a whole lot at the time. And the Sobeys game, I think there was a dead end eventually there. Great company to work for by all means. But, just that position I was in my life at the time, I had to make a change. And one of the store managers, her husband and I got along great. And he was a foreman for a large drywall company.
Okay.
So he was egging me all on, come on, I need some apprentices and stuff like that. I'm like, I come from a farm, I can hammer nails and fence posts, but when it comes to screw guns and stuff like that, I don't know a whole lot, right? So he convinced me to leave, and I started at the Truro Hospital. I started with him, so we were the first two starting at the Truro Hospital. I think this was 2008. I think it was somewhere around there, 2008.
Yeah.
And I can still remember the first day I went out there to screw a clip on one of the studs or whatever, and not knowing anything, I didn't hold it tight enough, spun around, cut me wide open, right? So
First job site injury.
essentially, yeah. So it was 3 days in. So
You write it up?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. So I remember going for wings that night, but that's what I remember that.
Piece of duct tape.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So Artie McMaster was the foreman at the time, and he's one of the smartest individuals I've ever worked with. He taught me the trade. Essentially, I was very lucky. Usually, a lot of people get in the trade, they start on the board and they start on that side. But I started with the layout and the
really?
steel, and I learned T-bar. I learned all that before I actually probably hung my first 200 sheets of drywall.
Oh yeah, you were a lucky one to get in there and get to learn that from those guys.
Exactly. Yeah. So I worked in that trade for 7 years. I started looking after some work towards the end of it, and at the time I didn't know if I wanted to do it either, right? So I didn't know if I wanted to sling drywall the rest of my life, right? So
it's hard work.
My Jonathan Berkman, that me and him know from each other, were actually cousins or whatever. So he was the vice president with Trinity. He convinced me to give it a try. So I come on board with Dwaine in 2014, and I went from doing everything from insulating attics to helping in the warehouse to learning scheduling into some operations, different things like that, and. Then I think 2016, I think it was, commercial started growing a lot more. And we noticed that, okay, we got to put some focus here. So 2017, I think it was, I slid more over into the commercial side of the business. And yeah, we went from, doing a couple of jobs a year essentially to, I couldn't even count, to be honest with you. We're probably a couple hundred anyway. Yeah. So, the structural fireproof and the spray foam, and that has really taken off. We're in a lot of the high rises here in Halifax doing the spray foam and the fireproofing.
Like polyurethane spray foams that you're talking about now. Like that's something that you kind of worked into the. Is that something you always did, or just recent years?
Polyurethane, the spray foam we've always done.
Always done that.
The polyurea coatings we're starting to get into.
Okay,
you're starting waterproofing and such like that.
For waterproofing, yes, yeah.
So that's and then I guess as that grew, I started looking after Halifax with Dwaine there. So now I became a vice president about 2 years ago. So that's the quick story of how I got to where I am today.
It's hard to sum it up in a couple minutes, isn't it?
It is.
Well, this isn't your first time in front of the microphone either. You forgot to mention your experience with the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles. Was it color commentary or play-by-play?
I may have done some color commentary with.
He's got the voice, eh?
A good friend of mine, Kyle Moore. He's with CTV News now, but we did some color commentary with them well before the drywall days. We'll say that much.
No, it's great. Thanks for sharing that, Steve. And Karsh, we gotta get to you. Lots to chat about. Soublière Constructors, based in Ottawa. Give us the down low here.
Crazy story as well, I guess. Now that I look at it, I moved to Canada in 2014 September from India.
Okay.
Graduate from civil engineering 2014. When you started with Trinity, I graduated University
University of Ottawa.
no, I'm from India.
Okay, from India.
I
Okay.
immigrated. I'm a Canadian now, but I immigrated. The first time I sat on the plane in my life was to Ottawa. I thought Toronto was the capital, but anyways. Came to Canada. I worked, I graduated in green architecture at Algonquin College, great program. And then I was looking for a job. And back in 2015 is when I graduated. The market was very, very tough for anybody to get into construction. It was a very stable market, but construction is different, right? It's very different. And so I was looking for a job, and then this random fellow drops into my messages on LinkedIn, offering me a junior estimator position. Oh, not offering, asked. He said, your portfolio looks interesting, let's chat. And it was Mr. Andre Soubliere that invited to chat with him in November 2015, so almost 80 years ago.
Right.
So I looked him up. There was no website. It was a small, it was, it wasn't big on marketing, I believe. So I asked him what the company was all about. So he told me it's a drywall company. So I went online and I Googled what is drywall? How do I take off? How do I do things, right? Because we do construction differently in India. Yeah, exactly, right? So, and the program that I went for.
So what would you see for wall assemblies in India more so than
concrete,
like stucco?
Steel, concrete, and brick, masonry.
But they don't use gypsum, eh?
They do. They do.
Some, yeah.
They have started to do it now. There's actually, if you were to do pound to pound, the light gauge LGSF industry in India, it's bigger than Canada. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. That's interesting.
Don't quote me, but it's quite a big volume now. But it was being used more into like big structures, corporate, in certain parts of the country.
Yeah.
Not where I was from. I'm close to Delhi. Anyhow, so and when you go to school, they teach you the theoretical part, right? They don't really teach you what's happening.
Yeah.
On site, like when I was in school for sustainable energy and stuff. They were telling how we can put straw bales and use them as insulation. And when you get on site, it's about, is it pink or is it not? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So one's double the price, one's not.
Yeah.
So I go in for an interview, I get the job, and Andre, he was in his mid 60s at that point, polished gentleman, super smart, comes from the trade, 30 some years into the business already. And right away he says, I don't want you to be a junior estimator. I want you to be someday be a project manager. So why don't you come on in as a project coordinator, and I'll find another estimator. No problem.
Right.
So anyhow,
it's pretty high praise coming in.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised because I was supposed to start, and I come in, and right away this gentleman that hasn't hired anybody in a long time, because he's running a very smooth show. It's it's like river stones. It's all no edges.
Right.
It's just running. It's smooth, complex commercial jobs, and right away he hires 2 people.
So he was all complex commercial in Ottawa.
Absolutely.
No residential.
No residential.
Just
Ottawa
major
Kings.
projects.
Major projects. Working with bigger players like PCL Elliston, right?
Yeah.
Like not even. He's not. He knows what he wants.
Yeah.
And right away he hires 2 individuals, right? And he hired an estimator.
Retirement plan.
Well, I guess. And he hires an estimator who's now our senior estimator. So both of us are in the company. Anyhow, so he hires me, and he has a great team. Okay, so he's got 20 guys, all of them foremen. So 10 to 20 guys, but all of them journeymen. Because all the jobs that he has, it's not about the volume, it's about the technique, right? You can go way wrong. Some of the projects that he had done at that point, like my first project was Royal Military College in Kingston. They were doing 8 buildings with Elliston, and that's where I got trained. So right away I was dealing with DCC.
Well, 8 buildings on the campus at
on
the
the
college.
campus, yes.
Right.
So it's a DCC building it, right? Because it's defense.
Right.
So right away, my training started on dealing with Elliston and DCC. And
On 8 buildings on the campus.
8 building campus. So, and the
Threw you right into the fire there.
exactly. But the team was great. The supervisor that he had at that point, amazing guy. He taught me a lot of things, and the estimator in the team. So I just started learning, from there. And I still remember every year I wouldn't even have to go to him. He would come to me and be like,
The supervisor would.
No. Andre would come to me and be like, I think we need to have a little chat.
Right.
So he was somebody that really mentored me, and I started learning quite a bit from him, and I grew the company from Ottawa. We started, and I said, Andre, I think we can do more. So instead of just doing this little job, so I grew the company from there to Ottawa, to Kingston, became local. Belleville, went a little bit towards Sudbury, and we grew the company. And I went from project coordinator to project director, and then COVID hit.
Okay.
And we were
What's
doing,
that? Just joking.
Corona. I don't know what we called it at that point, but we were doing all complex commercial jobs. Most of them at that given point were fit-ups.
Right.
And right away, they told us, I don't know, the rules were a bit different here in Atlantic part of the country, but in Ontario, no commercial work was to be done.
Okay.
Total drop dead silence for 3 weeks. So I'm sitting home for 3 weeks, and
This was what you were hearing.
yes, no, the government told us
Okay.
no commercial work. Stop. Only work to be done in Ontario was.
And that did in fact happen.
That did happen. We
Right.
stopped for 3 weeks. So I was sitting home for
Right.
the first time in my life. I didn't know what to do because there was no waiting. We didn't know what was supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, then we by this time I also had very good relationship with some general contractors, right? Because I was working with them all the time, and the jobs were complex. So it wasn't like we were bidding against 20 people. You know,
Right.
we were a lot of times
Just a few specialized
well, it was
bidders.
design builds. We were
Yeah.
designing it. We were servicing it, and the areas because
You
I'm
were helping with some of the design as well.
absolutely
With these GCs on the interiors.
Absolutely.
They
So
would-
that
okay.
yeah. So like we will create the job with them. We'll go service the job with them, right? And
So you're involved that backstream.
absolutely.
And then you have bidding on the job too to get awarded the tender, or just kind of almost like
usually it doesn't go for bid if it's design build, but sometimes
Right.
it does, and we are involved in that. So budgeting, design build, design as well. You know, we can
Yeah.
we can design it with the architect, engineer on record. We have our own engineers to even design the job. So
So it sounds like you really got involved with a really good commercial wall and
Absolutely.
ceiling drywall company there,
Right.
because not a lot are that sophisticated.
no, we were not at all about volume. We wouldn't even touch residential. We were just like the more complicated it is, we were more interested.
Right.
So COVID happened, and then I got a call from my favorite contractor, and the gentleman said to me, "I have a job for you, and 2 jobs for you, and it needs to get done now." And it was the province were looking for a team to deliver a 70-bed field hospital that had to be built in like a couple of months. Our scope was supposed to be finished, 70-bed hospital, transitional hospital, to be built in like 3 months. And
So was this a steel stud job with
steel
sheeting
studs,
and all that?
everything.
Yeah.
So they were basically excavating, demoing, building stuff as we go, and designing and planning. Like
Okay.
we had our electricals, plumber, drywaller, demo guys on site 24/7. So we were not waiting for change orders. We were like, okay, this needs to be demoed. Call the demo guy. This is how complex it was. And while we have to follow all the rules and regulations, building code, and design and fireproofing, everything, right? So I get called to do this job, and little did he know that I'm not even working right now because we're shut down. So I said, I'll manage it. So we start working on this massive healthcare project, and then we're doing some work for Procter & Gamble in Belleville. So we're building their new $90 million expansion because they shifted their plant from doing, I think they were making women hygiene stuff at
Right.
that point. in
So
the plant.
Soubliere at that time and still kind of focused on everything outside the GTA almost. Is that,
Yes,
does that sum it
yes,
up?
GTA.
Yeah.
So I would say would be down. So which is
But you're not to the core in Toronto. You're
No.
Ottawa and
Ottawa,
around GTA
Ottawa
area.
and around.
Yeah,
right,
Kingston,
correct,
all those. Yeah.
correct. So the furthest we've gone is Whitby.
Okay.
We're just so busy. But most of the work, even in Ottawa, was always out and complex. So we always had guys that were used to traveling, used to going to new cities.
Yeah.
So that happened, and we did that big job. And then I realized that Soubliere needs to focus more on healthcare, more on defense, more on jobs that will be there because we had our scare.
Because that's what's coming down the pipes, right?
Yeah. So and then once that happened, we started getting requests for what's down the pipeline. Like,
Yeah.
bigger projects coming up. I got more involved. So I said, I think it's time to make move. And I went and I offered Mr. Soubliere if I can buy him out. And that deal happened in 2021. Mr. Andre Soubliere is still involved in the company. He's the CEO. He looks after quite a bit of estimation for East Coast and for Kingston, and we just started from that. We grew and grew. We moved to Sudbury, Timmins, Kingston, Belleville, Ottawa, Quebec, and we went from doing work, looking after for work in the next 2-3 months to booking work for next 3 years, and then there was a strike in Ontario.
Union.
Union strike. I decided to buy the business in 2021.
Right before the strike.
No, there's more stuff that happened. I bought the business. I said, great decision. And then metal stud went up 120%.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Steel.
Steel pricing. And I'm on
Yeah.
all the jobs where you can't get any increases. So COVID happens. Steel studs went up and goes up. Or drywall goes up. Insulation goes up. Carpenter strikes happen. First time in 25 years in Ontario. And only commercial. So then I said, okay, too bad, too sad, but we have to make some move in residential as well. And we ended up bringing in a fellow named Matt Baker. That's our VP for residential.
So you diversified right away and went
Right
to
away.
residential.
Well, we were flirting for about a year, but I said it's about time. Because what I also saw that with COVID, we also realized that there's immense shortages of houses.
Right.
Multi-res, multi-units, right? Like I was
Right.
talking to a fellow from yesterday. I was in Sudbury in Ontario, and they make the biggest aboriginal home housing
Yeah.
off reserve,
Yeah.
and they said Ontario needs 22,000 homes as of right now, units, to even meet the demand,
Right.
just for the Indigenous community.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So
And let me clarify just for our listeners, because we do have lots of listeners from Central Canada, some from Western, but Atlantic Canada, just terminology wise, it's all saying residential, you mean multi-unit residential, probably 50, 60 units or higher is what
Yeah,
you're
so
concerned
that-
about. It's
that's
not
where-
homes.
No, but unit like multi-floor
Yes, yeah,
units.
multi-res, yeah.
So we saw that some of our clients started to get into low-income housing, developing these rental units. So I said, okay, if these big players are going into it, they need players like us to come in, because we don't only just do drywall, we can also do structure. We can make slab structures, can-am structures where our steel studs is a load-bearing structure
Yes.
that can support.
You
the
don't
whole
see that
building.
happen very often.
No.
Yeah, maybe it's happened on a few small builds throughout Atlantic Canada. I've seen it somewhere in the south end of Halifax, but just on like a two-story.
It's getting there.
It happens a lot in the States. It happens a lot in Ottawa too.
Absolutely, like
And-
in
and Ontario.
states can put up a building in 2 months, not even
Yeah.
in a month, right? But it's happening a lot in Ontario because there was a wave of long-term cares that were coming in,
Uh-huh.
retirement homes, and they were using quite a bit of these systems because
Because of the shortage or the price of lumber, or was it
price of
what else?
lumber,
Yeah,
shortage of
lots
labor.
variables.
You eliminate masons to an extent. You eliminate structural steel. You eliminate concrete to quite an extent, right?
Yeah.
So you're dealing with one trade. So the load-bearing structure came into place. So
And what gauge are these studs? Are they 16,
It'll-
18?
it will all
depends,
dep-
right?
It starts. I've seen as low as 10 gauge to 12 gauge at the bottom. And go
So
up.
that heavy. Okay.
That heavy.
That's
So
pretty
basically,
heavy stuff.
so you do your load-bearing walls. You don't have
Yeah.
any space between your track and studs. The
Yeah.
spacing is 10 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches.
Yeah.
But as you go up, it stops, right? And
Right.
and then you also get to do the pan on top. That's you. And then somebody comes in and pours the concrete.
Quick shout out to the newest sponsor of the show, the Stone Depot. The Stone Depot is located in Bears Lake, Halifax, but serves all of the East Coast. The showroom over 8,000 square feet, perfect for masonry contractors, landscaping contractors, builders, developers. Regardless, the Stone Depot is a great option for you, whether you're doing fire pits, patio stones, kitchen and interior stones. So if you're looking for a great stone supplier, visit the Stone Depot. This episode is brought to you by Airtight Spaces. Airtight Spaces is Atlantic Canada's first authorized aero barrier dealer. They help create comfortable, healthy, and durable living environments with the added benefit of energy efficiency. Air sealing is a critical step towards net zero buildings. Using air pressure to automatically guide sealing guarantees the highest quality results in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort. If air sealing is important to you, you can visit Airtight Spaces at www.airtightspaces.com. Pivot Bookkeeping is your one-stop shop and customizable bookkeeping, tax, and filing service. With Pivot, you have the peace of mind knowing your taxes are always filed on time and your bookkeeping is reconciled often. Using their non-proprietary software and applications, all of your business finances are securely handled by their local account managers. Pivot takes great pride in providing you with unlimited support and a direct line to your account managers right here in Nova Scotia. Whether you're an established business looking for new options and increase efficiency, or a newer company looking to build a solid foundation for future growth, Pivot has a product that can be modified to your needs. Consider making the pivot today. Book a free consultation at pivotbookkeeping.com.
Right.
So, and what the beauty of this was, it could be done between the GC and the drywaller.
Go
now.
through a lot of chop saw blades on those.
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. And so those started to come. So I said, we need to make a move. So I was talking to this fellow named Matt Baker, who owned Western Drywall, a company in Ottawa. Had a good name. They were not doing a lot of work, but they would do bigger jobs. So like one contract is $6 million, $7 million right
Wow.
away, right? So we started talking, and then we decided to join hands. So he came on board, and we Currently we have about $10 million of work already just in residential. We're doing a 251 unit project right now in Ottawa,
That's a big one.
and we bid quite a few here in town. So he's leading that. So we're in residential now as well,
Okay.
and that's a
That's
for
it in
us.
a nutshell.
Well, in a nutshell, if we were to define us, we would be complex commercial, defense, retail,
Right.
industrial, residential, and we follow wherever the work is, and
Right.
more quality over quantity kind of business,
Yeah.
and growing. And then we met these beautiful gentlemen.
Yeah.
That's a story on its own.
That's the story we're here to tell. So yeah, I mean, for our listeners too, I mean, you have a solid company like Soublière Constructors based in Ottawa throughout central Canada. And how long have they been established there before you came along? Is that like a
So it's been total 38 years.
right? So that's
38 in business.
right. So that's a pretty good name. Pretty
Yep.
a lot of time to
And the-
establish a reputation.
And the beauty is that the core company is still there, right? Because
Right, they're still involved.
Yeah. So the beauty that happened was they were already used to doing these work out of town, and everybody was a journeyman. So what we did, we took that basic of the company and grew around it, right? So we didn't have to. We didn't just.
Right.
We didn't grow vertically. We didn't go. Let's take the biggest job in town
Yeah,
and grow.
yeah.
What we did was spread into these little cities, take on the small jobs, take on the headaches. So we diversified in terms of small jobs. We took on a lot of small jobs.
Right.
Slowly, in a couple of years,
Yeah.
we decided to grow organically. So even though we are in all these towns, we don't have traveling people. We have all local manpower, local connections. So even in East Coast right now, we're completely local. We'll
Right.
have one or two guy come by once in a while, but
Right from the Ottawa region.
yes, because what we don't want to do is what is happening to East Coast right now with the major infrastructure projects and in general is that the money is leaving the province because the bigger job comes in and people come from abroad across.
Well,
the
yeah. I
provinces.
mean, labor shortage is pretty serious.
Pretty
thing.
serious. And but the labor is distributed, right? What you want to do is you want somebody to come in that keeps the business here. So eventually people get interested and seeps into it. You want people to move from other provinces here.
Yeah.
You don't want them to come here
For
take
a
the
couple
work, and
months
then go back.
or-
So that was happening with smaller towns of Ontario. Same model,
Yeah.
complete same model. Because
Yeah.
like I said, 40% of the
Yeah,
pop-
because your employees were traveling a lot. It might be a 2 or 3 hour drive, but they're still staying up in a hotel somewhere in rural Ontario, right, from where they're located.
Exactly.
So that's still travel happening on most of your projects.
And the bad part about that the town was never seeing a consistent growth for the longest time because they will have one project, everybody will come in and then leave.
Right.
So and the smaller contractor in these towns were like, okay, no problem, I don't care, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. But what you need is that for the volume to stay, and for that it's very important that you grow it within the community. So for us, our plan is that if we come in here, we have to get local within 6 months or within 1 year.
Right.
That's always
That's
our plan.
part of your model.
Yes, because we're gonna have travel on our pricing. We will
Yeah.
never be competitive.
Yeah.
Right, we can get the big projects, but the local people will never ever be competitive.
Yeah.
And at some point, you can get work while everybody's busy, but what happens when it slows down?
Yeah.
Right, it's not organic. It's not going to sustain itself. So that is one of our big thing is to be local. So whenever you go to these towns, everybody's local. There's a hierarchy. Everybody's growing. Everybody's going up. So a lot of our work just comes on its own now. We don't have to look for the biggest and the baddest job out there to stay in the city.
Yeah. It's interesting too, the story of Soubliere and how you organically grew. It seemed like a lot of finesse involved in, the projects you were picking to bid. And then, like you said, those 20 journeymen, your core, and then sure there might be 120 employees or whatever.
Yep.
But that top 10, 15% of your employees really is the core of the business, right? And then not to diminish apprentices that are coming in or second, third year journeyman, because you need all kinds of those to spread the labor out and all that. I mean, that's important, but you had the strong core there, right? And a lot of finesse.
Absolutely. Like, one of the things that Steve touched on, like he's mentioning his mentor. If he had a bad foreman on site that didn't give him attention, he wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's why we always say is that whenever we start a job or we step into a new city, we always want to make sure we send the right guy with the right temperament and teach the people. Because otherwise nothing scares a new apprentice more than having the wrong,
No,
Wrong
100%.
readers.
I love hearing it. I love hearing it because I come from a background in that trade, and you don't always get the most polished, people that's pretty autocratic, and just to have somebody who has a little more, teaching ability, those kind of things. It's tough because, the jobs are tough to make money on, so you really have to move fast, but it takes a special kind of person to be able to move a job along while having the temperament to deal with people at the same time.
And I would say like the last 3-4 years or 4 years has been very interesting time, best time to buy a company and get into construction, because construction is an intimidating industry. You're 6 a.m, you got a big truck outside lined up waiting for delivery, so everybody's yelling and shouting, so it can be intimidating for young people. It was for me. Took a while. But now, people are getting aware, and I always found that there's a big gap between architect GCs and then trades in terms of the way we do our business, the terms of the technology we use, the way we estimate, we bid, and our culture. Most of the companies don't even have HR, right? So, but it's changing as we go, and this shortage really was. It's not a good thing, but it will lead to great things because we are getting more aware. Everybody's concerned about the manpower. Everybody's concerned about retaining the manpower.
Absolutely.
And that's when everybody's on their best behavior, right?
Yeah.
When they know that things can really go wrong, and we have to really attract the talent and then
We
teach
do.
them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of being here and part of having a media platform too is to promote to younger people who otherwise might choose a career elsewhere that, hey, there's some killer jobs in this industry. Not just that you can make good money. Yes, you can, but takes talent, takes hard work. It's very respectable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
So to get more into Soubliere-Trinity, which is this new company established, and please correct me if I'm wrong. You guys are going to tell us all about it, but between both organizations who still have their identity and still have their operations separately, you've come together and formed Soubliere-Trinity, when the premise is to carry out commercial drywall and interiors within Nova Scotia and other provinces in Atlantic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we seen a need just under Trinity around here. Like, the bigger we grew when we were doing the insulation, and then we were doing fire stopping and the fireproofing and some of the waterproofing on the same projects, the more we did, we were seeing the GCs were liking that, and it was making their life easier, because now, back then, it was there's 4 different trades that they didn't have to go to 4 different companies anymore. They stuck just with one, made their life easier and all that. And we even seen it on the schedule side of it. If we come in at the same time, and we're really noticing it now with Soubliere involved, but if Trinity's in there and we're doing the spray foam and the insulation or such in the wall cavity, we're constantly talking with Soubliere-Trinity on that day basis. We're talking about the schedule. We're coordinating our crews together. It's making the job go faster. It's making it go less expensive.
Yeah.
You're
combining Division 7, Division 9 all together under one roof.
That was, for the longest time, that was where my head was. I wanted to be stuck in Division 7. I wanted to basically become a building envelope expert. I wanted the company to promote that. I mean, my next step, I plan will be doing the blue skin on the exterior, the minerals or the spray foam or whatever type of insulation on that, but exterior cladding. With Trinity, I don't know, a year and a half ago, we bought Matheson Windows and Doors out of Dartmouth.
Okay.
And so that
built a piece of the puzzle.
That built along with the Trinity world, where we were doing some of the building envelope, but it opened up a lot more doors when Soubliere came along, because here is a major player in the industry for the installation side of it. So we weren't just doing sales anymore. It opened up the door that we were going to start being able to look at some of these projects for the sales and the installation.
Yeah.
So that just was one more door open for the GCs, that they didn't have to deal with somebody different. So we were dabbling at first into this industry, and we have a common connection between the two businesses. It's Aries Contracting out of Ottawa. And Joe Cork is the owner, I guess I can say. We have other connections, I guess you would say, that introduced both of us. And once Joe seen that Soubliere was interested in coming east, and Joe is in our world in Ottawa. He does the spray foam, he does the fireproofing, he does the waterproofing. He's
Pretty major company.
Probably one of the biggest up there. They're doing some of the highest end jobs.
Right. They'd be
over
on
there.
half the jobs you guys are on, probably.
Well, actually, we're on the half the jobs they're on.
Okay, yeah.
They're pretty big.
I get you.
And then we were noticing down here, any of the big complex jobs, it was Aries that were coming down here. And for any of the businesses that couldn't handle or get enough work for here. So that opened up the door that Aries started talking with Trinity. Steve and Joe developed a very strong relationship. We started working on some projects together in the fireproofing world. They watched our back on some of the bigger ones that we took on, and we helped them for some of the ones that wasn't so much worth their while coming down this way. We were able to fill that shoes with them.
Yeah.
And the more we got to know Joe, the more he was saying, you guys have to get down and sit around the table together. And so that's basically what opened the door. We sat around the table, talked to each other, and now we're at where we're at.
I still remember that day. Joe called me at 10 in the morning and said, there's these two gentlemen down from Ottawa. I'd like you to meet them and maybe go have dinner with them and take them out in Halifax. I was like, sure, Joe, I'll do that. And lo and behold, here we are, right? So, no, we worked with Aries quite a bit over the last couple of years. With the COVID, it was hard for them to come in. So with us being here, we helped them on some projects. And,
kind of sub things to you, take care of this. Yeah,
exactly. So we kind of watch each other's backs, like Dwaine was saying, over the last few years. And I think it developed a great thing in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. So was it pretty quick when you first met? Like you had dinner, you go out, and you kind of just pretty informal, kind of getting to know each other, and then does it lead to some pretty serious conversations?
Do you want me to tell the story, or do you want to tell the story?
Please go ahead. It was pretty informal.
So
how informal?
So now listen, this is a good story. So we're I said, okay, we'll book Moxie's downtown. I got my girl in the office there to book this reservation, and I go down there. Dwaine was meeting me, but I get there first, and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and one guy comes in, he sits down, he talks to me. His name was Matt Baker, and then lo and behold, I think Dwaine comes, and then this guy walks in. He's on the cell phone, and he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and I'm like, I didn't know what to think of this whole situation at the time, right? So we're sitting here at Moxie's, like we're all fairly dressed out. I mean, he was definitely looking good. Don't get me wrong, Karsh, but it kind of threw me off.
A little loud.
We're not used to that in Halifax. Right?
Well, it wasn't the right time to wear a Hawaiian shirt.
Middle of winter, was it?
Yeah. Well, Flair doesn't have check-in bags, so I had
blame it on Flair.
I had limited.
Flair's getting beat up this podcast.
I had limited clothes, and that was the only thing that was left. And what was happening was Matt was in touch with Steve, and we had like meetings after meetings, and it was like the last meeting of the day, where you're just burnt out. You have nothing.
Yeah.
Left. It was 2 days, and we were just burnt out, and we had just came back from Texas, I believe. No, actually, we were going. Sorry, this was before that.
So you're packed for the warm
we
weather.
Were packed. And it was like one of those meetings where you were not expecting anything. And Matt says, hey, we got to meet somebody that Joe asked us to meet, and good old Joe. And there was no expectations, right? So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to show up. And I was staying across, so I came a little bit late. And just walk in, and I wasn't expecting anything of it. And I was just like, Christ, like only if I would have known. But so that was the first impression. Like, you don't wear Hawaiian shirt. It's cold out there.
Hey man, if you got through that, they're trusting you, then you did well.
And then so we started talking, and there's a lot of conversation. Turns out we were on a lot of same job. We have the same clients. We do same kind of work, and we work a lot with Aries in Central Canada and Quebec. But then, so these two gentlemen decided to came down, and they came down. They saw our operations. We talked a little bit more. So when I went to see them, they opened their jackets up in the middle of the winter. It's all Hawaiian shirts as well. So
that's all you did, really?
We did, yeah.
It's a running joke now. So Hawaiian shirts at winters are the best.
You're not making all your site employees wear those.
I can picture it someday, just for a day for a joke.
Just a day for a joke.
Mine could have passed for mine could have been a high-vis shirt almost.
Oh yeah,
that's how bright it was. So so it took us a while. We did our due diligences, 6 months, and the more I looked at it, and my personal vision was I had done it before, right? I've been to Sudbury and all these areas, and I
Yes.
know what it takes, how much money it takes to even get in there, and how much headache it takes. Right? You go in there, in construction, it's very easy to sell. It's to build. It's to deliver. That's the most important thing, right? And
Well said.
And they always say you're only as good as your last job. So, and it's a very complicated process. So I always wanted to grow, and I know what's out there. Like East Coast is about to get hammered with work. That's gonna start. Yes, there's a lot of quotes out there. There's a lot of projects that have started, but they haven't really started yet. They're gonna start soon. So my vision was that, my personal vision, and I talked to Matt quite a bit about it, was like, yes, we can get all the work. Yes, we can price it. If we price 10, we're gonna get one. If we price 20, we can get one. But the thing is, how do we service it right in a way where it grows, And believe it or not, my entire finance department in Ottawa, in the headquarters, is from Maritimes, right?
Really?
Yeah. So Andre's wife.
Where are they from?
Some from Nova Scotia, some from New Brunswick. But the finance, Andre's wife is from New Brunswick. And a lot of our manpower, like key foremans, are from East Coast. And there was a big, I'm sure you're aware of it, but a lot of people moved from Ontario to East Coast in that time, especially from construction. So there's a new, everybody wants to really enjoy life and get at a better pace of life. Ontario became really, with the COVID rules and stuff.
Yeah.
It was a crazy place, right? Like to put on a mask and to tape and to be 6 feet away.
Yeah, it was definitely a different scene there than it was here.
Absolutely. So people just opened up. It's like, hey, how about this place an hour and a half away with all kinds of coastlines and beautiful scenery and lots of work. How about I go back home, right? So there was attraction was there. So coming back to I always go on different tangent. So my focus was, yes, we want to be in East Coast, but we don't want to be a company from Ontario, a French company from Ontario, Quebec, that company. We want to be local. So, and I really loved their stories, and I always say, if you can't shake a hand on it, no contract can protect you.
Yeah.
So we really liked their wives, and Steve knew quite a bit about it, and we met and we decided to do this, and we said, no, we're not going to do one project or two projects. No, if it's going to be all in or not. So we created this new entity called Soubliere-Trinity. Any drywall that's going to be moved in Maritime through Soubliere will be under Soubliere-Trinity, vice versa, and it's a partnership. But Soubliere-Trinity, the VP of it's going to be run by Steve here, while all the operations, estimation, pre-construction support is from
your office in Ottawa.
For now, manpower support, fleet, it's Trinity backing us up, right? They've got headquarters everywhere. They got how many trucks you have on road? I don't even know. 105 trucks, all provinces. So,
and then for the first couple of jobs, sorry,
no,
keep
please,
going.
no.
I was going to ask, for the first couple of jobs that you bid, were you flying a few guys out from Ottawa to do these jobs with some local employees, or was it all your crew for the first one?
It's our first job, so we.
And was it with PCL, like you had a relationship with them in Ottawa, part of it, or?
So there was all the big boys out there, that we work with, they have their headquarters in Ontario, XYZ. So they kind of have their own method of what you call it, a reference check,
Sure.
in terms of your bonding, your capabilities, your insurances. So we had all that system set up with all the big players. So the references came, we started working, we started pricing, and we got the jobs. And the first we always like to do is we like to send the boys out there from here, from Ottawa, people that we know, right? Because it's a complex commercial job. If drywall is wrong, you can take it down, put another one. But if you put the wall like 6 inches off from where it's supposed to be, it can cause some major problems, right? So we have shifted one of our key supervisors, actually our main supervisor from Ontario to East Coast, to Nova Scotia, and then this individual has been in the company since Andre started the company. His dad has been in the company.
Wow, so that's who you have running things here.
Exactly, right? So he's here, his dad worked with Andre. They're the same age, and then he started with the company, and he's been with us since forever. So
this guy knows what's up.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's here, And while so the supervisor, foreman, and key interior system mechanics, I would say 10% of the job will come from headquarters.
Right.
The rest are from here.
While you slowly build up locally.
Yeah, so
which
we're
is what you
already-
have been doing. Yeah.
We are doing a job right now in Dartmouth with the green machine, and all the employees on it are local
Wow. Okay.
and signed with the union.
Local unionized. employees.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. While the supervisor is from Ottawa.
What's the differences in the drywall journeyman and rates and stuff as far as the union in Ontario and here? Is just a few bucks higher kind of thing, or what's the big gap? Or
I don't know.
yeah.
I'll have to ask my accountant. But there's definitely a pay difference for sure.
Yeah.
But with your key guys, they're set, so they're set.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So I wouldn't know the difference, to be honest. Wrong person to ask.
Oh, it's probably a
I
few
should
bucks.
know.
I'm just thinking
I
out
should
loud.
know,
It's a few
but
bucks
I-
probably.
Probably.
It's not. It's very regulated, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there will be a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our philosophy for now. But Steve's doing an incredible job. We have a job. Down in Wedgeport right now that we are working on.
Right.
We finished a project in New Brunswick, defense in Gagetown.
Mhm.
It was more towards doors and hardwares install. And,
Okay.
And we did a small little job at the Halifax Airport
Okay.
for WestJet.
So you've been Soubliere-Trinity you've been doing drywall work in Nova Scotia for probably the last 6 months or a year. Then you've been kind of
Yeah. Anyway, and
But-
even before that, Trinity has a small residential drywall division.
right.
So I don't know, probably what, 2 years, 3 years,
2 years now, I think it is. Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
It's quite there's another story if you want to hear it, I guess.
Yeah.
So Dwaine here was renovating his house at the time and put an addition on and lifted it up, and he said, "Well, I'll help you hang the drywall." That was my trade. So
Yeah.
I went down there, put the tools on, and Dwaine's son Bailey gave me a hand, and a few other people that we brought in, and I remember at the end of it, I'm like, we need to find a taper. So called one of my old employers, and I said, "Can you send me a taper down?" He said, "Yeah, no, we can send you a taper, but we got these couple of guys from Ontario that moved down, and they're down there in Pictou, and we got no work for them." So he was like, "Why don't you just call them directly and see if you can work something out with them?" So we got a couple of quotes. They came in, they quoted it cheaper than everybody else. We decided to give them a try, and
Okay.
came in and
They did well.
fantastic job. So Dwaine and I look at each other and we're like, I guess we probably should hire them, I guess. So so it
Not
started.
to let that opportunity pass. Hard to find good
Hard to
tapers.
find
isn't
it
it?
when they slap you right in the face. You better grab
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And then turns to find out they got a large family and they seem to all do drywall and they all seem to live in the same facility. So we hired
Jeez.
7 or 8 of them now we got, and they're all intertwined some way, the majority
Right.
of them. So
Yeah.
whether they're cousins or family or
Yeah.
different things like that.
Originally from Newfoundland, so it's
Okay.
nice for them too,
Yep.
because
Yeah.
they're making their way home.
Oh, that's
And
great. Yeah. It's great when that happens, eh?
It's-
Just kind of organically, and it's value both sides, and everybody. Yeah. It's,
It was a part of the business when I was growing it, when I started not seeing a change, because I was attracting people from Alberta to come home to work for me. Versus a few years before that, we were losing a lot of our employees that
there.
were running to Alberta. So
yeah, it's nice.
it kind of felt good when you had that opportunity to start interviewing
Yeah.
people to say, like, I can give you a job to move home to, and you can leave the big Alberta and be
Yeah.
equivalent to a salary down here or whatever.
Yeah, that's great.
So it was a good feel moment for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, the next 5 years is going to be big for that here because there's a lot of big projects.
Oh, yeah.
They're on the move, and I think it's a very good time for the province to attract these people back.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
like I said, I had about 20-30% people in our company that were from East Coast, right? And now
Oh, right. Working for you in the
absolutely
Ontario
Ottawa,
region.
Ottawa is built up. It's a bilingual city, so a lot of
Yeah.
people from New Brunswick
Yeah.
are there.
Yeah.
And Nova Scotia quite a bit. Toronto has a lot of Nova Scotia people. So
Yeah.
and tradesmen, great tradesmen. They just want to go back to have consistent work.
Yeah.
That's why they moved to Ontario. So that's why our big push is that. So I'll tell you the gravy or the secret sauce. Basically, what has happened in me taking over Soubliere and us coming together is that in the past 5 years, construction has got way more complicated, right? BIM is in. No more, while 95% of the trades are estimating using PDFs. right? There's information out there where you can look at a 3D model, you can get your quantities, you can price something.
Yeah.
But
that's
half of
crazy.
the but 95% of the people are pricing as a PDF, and the second they get a job, they're like, "What did I miss?" Right?
Yeah, or they're still using printed drawings and a pencil.
Absolutely.
And,
So-
an Excel sheet.
So the contractor is like, I know a sub. He's great. He can do the job, but I can't get the paperwork. He can't price me. He can't give me change orders. He can't give me core paperwork or lead paperwork or as built. So how am I going to use them, right? If you don't get paperwork on time, you can't do the job start documents. You can't get on these projects. So the gap is immense, and this is where we kind of came in to fill that gap, right?
Yeah.
And you were talking about, how we are together with divisions. Imagine this, you as a GC, you get one price where you have to write one subcontract for your doors, hardwares, windows, millwork, drywall, paint, fireproofing, spray proofing.
Yeah.
Imagine the savings.
One
Fire
sub as
stopping,
opposed
windows, heat pumps. Keep going.
And
as opposed to 6 to 8 different subs,
Yeah.
on certain
one
jobs,
less, like 2 or 3 less trade meetings, 2 or 3 less checks, 2 or 3 less billing invoices.
It's a big value prop for the
Absolutely.
GC
And
or CM or whatever the scenario is.
and we all miss things. I'm gonna mess up a job. You're gonna mess up a job, and GC is gonna mess up a job. But if we have a lot on the plate together, we can work together towards a solution. And now picture this: we all know there's not enough manpower. We all have to bring manpower out of town to come in and do our work. Now, spray foam guy is doing it, drywall guy is doing it, window guy is doing it. We all are paying for different guys to come there, while all of them can work together and share the work. So all of us take guys from the same union. So if you're on a job that is out of town, because there's a lot of work out of town within Nova Scotia that we have to go and do it, and we have to pay, travel allowances. But if I have a supervisor that can supervise the drywall, and when he's caught up, can work with the spray foam guy, I have guys on site that can prep for the fireproofing instead of working on drywall, because we are gonna get caught up. There's no project where a drywaller can stay from day one to last day. There's not like that. Right?
You're switching them on a different payroll or
Absolutely.
just carrying it right through.
Carrying
Yeah.
right through from the same union. It
Yeah.
doesn't make a difference, right? And assist with whatever we can. So it takes away a lot of costs. Supervision is a big cost, especially in complex commercial jobs. Supervision is one of the biggest costs. And
That's where the labor shortage hits just as hard, because you just can't find those guys with that kind of experience. They're not just coming out of the woodworks. Yes.
well, and on that note,
And we need to be breeding them too.
Absolutely.
That's one of the biggest things, right?
so we are working right now in so I'm also I used to be a president, but I'm a trustee now for Ottawa Walls and Ceiling Centers, which is a trade delivery agent, where we train apprentices to get into the trade.
Okay.
So and I've just engaged, and I also I'm the chairman for the KC Kingston Construction Association for Trades. So I'm a young guy.
You're 30, right?
I'm 30. I immigrated to this country.
It's great to see someone like yourself in the trade.
Thank you.
Someone with having a background like to be innovative, make change. It's great.
I'm learning as I go, and what I realized was that a civil engineer will start at $48,000 now. When I started, it was very, very tough to get a break. 48, 65, whatever you get, right? You start there, then you go up to 100, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in the trades, you can make that money right off the bat.
Yeah.
And more and more and more. And we need people in trade. So, and what I'm seeing is that because I'm a Canadian, I became Canadian recently, a year ago, not even a year ago, August last year.
Like, that's quite a grueling process, eh?
Yeah. It takes a while.
Yeah.
But
Was it 5 to 8 years, like from
something
permanent
like
resident for PR?
Yeah, something like that. Well, PR, after PR, you become Canadian. So I became
Right.
Canadian.
Citizenship after
Citizenship,
that.
right? So
2 years
last-
after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know the process,
Mhm.
how tough it is. And what I just realized is that all of the construction company, even a small construction company, they have a lot of purchasing power, right? We deal with the real money, real materials, right? There's no, it's upfront. We have a lot of purchasing power. We can hire a lot of people, but we're not at all tapping into the immigration programs. None of us have HR. None of us have a good website, even including us. Our website is subpar. Where you go to a retail company or something, they're excellent at this, right? The ads are out, billboards are out. So no wonder we have manpower shortage. We're not making anybody aware of what we can do. So right now I'm working with immigration officers up in Ontario to find skilled programs where we can actually change some visa requirements. We can actually change some paperwork requirement where people will be like, you know what, I don't need to go to Alberta and work in a restaurant to get my papers. I can actually be working in a hospital project in Halifax and work towards my residence.
Let me just say, like, that's amazing that you're taking that initiative, because regardless of what we do locally, and this is a problem across the country when you talk to people at Procore, you know, yes, we need to be training more young people. We need to attract more people to the trades, but we need immigrant workers too.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a fact.
Absolutely.
So,
well, we Canada in general need immigrants, and then construction on top. And look at it. Most of the bulk of the work that was done by the immigrants that came in the 50s and 60s, and they're all retiring, and there's nobody to take their place. So we have a big shortage right now, and there were immigration program that I came through were too much focused on office jobs, right? And what people need to understand, that trades here are very different. Like if you're a supervisor, that's an office job.
yeah, it's
office
job
complicated.
from the job site.
You need to learn how, and nowadays, like so we do a lot of prefab and modular stuff too.
Okay.
And if you can do that stuff, yes, you're a guy on a tool, but you need to know how to read plans. You need to know BIM. You need to know CAD.
Yeah.
You need to know your structural drawings, right? Yeah. So that's what we're trying to make people aware of, and that's one of our targets. So there is an Atlantic immigration program. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's a very interesting program where you can actually bring in a lot of. So we don't even have to go out of country. There's already a lot of people that have migrated
that are here.
to Canada.
Yes. Yeah.
But they are not into construction because construction does not benefit their immigration profile. They cannot transfer into a residency, a permanent residency, because the problem is that unions...
Are the jobs not classified in the trades enough for their journey toward PR and citizenship?
Well,
is that what you mean?
Yes, because
Class
the problem
D or whatever it is.
Construction doesn't have this classification of full-time jobs, right? The job stops.
Even though they're making good money and working 50 hours a week or more.
Exactly. So unions are not employers. They're union hall. Employers are not the owners because they're taking from the union. So the government is confused. Who's going to take responsibilities of these people, right? So now the unions are actually on board. They're like, no, enough is enough. We need to get on board. So now we are trying to work on some pilot programs where the unions, the employers, and the government with Immigration Canada comes on board and try to make sure that these young people that are out there inside the country struggling to find jobs or working in other trades because they want their residency to jump into construction. So that's something I'm personally working on very hard with a couple of associations, and we want to set up training. So Matheson Doors that you guys acquired, we want to set up some training over there for people to come and learn the trade a little bit more, ask for help from the trade ministries, ask for help from immigration, and ask for help from you as well to make awareness about it and bring new generation into the trade.
That's great. I mean, we could definitely go down that to talk about that for a long time, but I'll definitely want to connect you with some people. One from the Ukraine and a few others, young guys here doing the same thing, hiring a lot of people. We can chat about that.
Absolutely.
Off air.
Absolutely.
But I want to go back to what you said about the gap and, you know, knowing BIM, knowing CAD and Revit, all the technology. You know, I think, I could be wrong, but I think in the UK, a lot of tenders that have come out public-wise, the takeoff's done, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody's playing on the same field. You don't need to have someone sitting there paying them, you know, really good money as an estimator doing takeoff. It comes out with the tender. Now, you got to put your variables, your material labor, you got to do that, of course. But the takeoff's done when the tender comes out. So that eliminates a lot of overhead costs, like a lot. So it's neat that they do that, right? I know they do it in some countries in Europe, and I think it happens in the UK. It could happen, who knows where else. But
it started to happen here too, because what happened was when the prices went up that high, nobody can absorb the pain, right? So before, like 2019, the metal pricing that we were paying was like 2016 pricing, and then all of a sudden 120% jump in a year. So there came a demand of indexing everything. Where we are going to the GC saying, this is your price of your metal for this many time, but this is how much it costs you to buy. But if it goes up, we get paid more as we go. So it's kind of same concept where we are like, this is your square foot price for this many items, but if anything changes, we have to revisit the price. Because keep in mind, after the union strike, the labor also went up like 10% over 3 years, which is quite a bit of money, right? So that I think you're going to see more and more. And What also happened with COVID, right after COVID, was things got bigger. Before we used to do a lot of $100,000, $200,000 jobs. Now it's like $1 million jobs.
Yeah, even here, I mean, everything's just
It's bigger.
everything's major. There's huge, major $300 million jobs every year getting announced.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what we are trying to say is that owner is paying for it regardless. So why do we keep repeating the cycle? Why do I have to get an engineer? I have to do a takeoff while you have already done it.
Yeah,
No wonder
you're
we
right.
beat
You
it.
are. It is. It's true. It's repetitive
So-
in that regard because it's so complex.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap. Yeah.
So we had a couple of projects. So we're doing a big Shepherds of Good Hope project in Ottawa, and we did some John Howard. So a lot of commercial. They're residential projects because downstairs is all offices and caseworkers and stuff, and upstairs it's housing for Indigenous women. and
Okay.
People that are working on. So we work with them because these are the projects we don't want them to go over budget because we need them.
Yeah.
It's for a good cause. So we work with the client. I said, listen, if you want to do this project in time and in the same price, let's not go to the stage where we're gonna select a supplier after tender. Let's bring them to table now. Share the quantities now. Tell them what you need now, and let's lock it.
Yeah.
Right. So the clear discussion started to happen. So I don't think we are far from that era where projects will have more and more. I think they call it now integrated project delivery. I think something similar to that.
Yeah.
Something where all the shareholders, you might call it, or stakeholders. Are on the table right away.
Yes, right
we're
away.
all stakeholders. So
Yeah. In a sense, it's similar to like a private design build.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like if there's a big provincial project tomorrow, and we get on board, we only have to estimate it once,
Yeah. No kidding.
not
And
4 times.
yeah, and then you don't have where it's coming out 3 times, tendered and revised, and this, and we all know as subcontractors. Well, geez, I just spent like a month estimating that. Now I got to get my senior estimator to spend another 3 weeks. And then it just got tendered out again, and there's all these, it's
crazy.
grueling, but yeah, there is a lot of changes that are going to happen. I think, and
Absolutely.
it's going to take time, but it's interesting to think because if you can automate some of those things, software is one thing. Yeah, it's rarely you're going to see a contractor of this size or even much smaller because obviously we're dealing with big companies here at the table, but it's really hard to get by without some kind of software for estimating, for project management, tracking.
You can't do it.
No,
these
you
days.
can't do it anymore, right? So, but if that's just the tip of the iceberg, right?
So
as far as that.
And I'd say like there is no contractor out there, drywall, that can handle all the work. There is none. It's always
Absolutely
going to
not.
be a
No.
partnership. It's always going to be a joint effort. And with the QE2 coming up and all this big projects
Yeah, I
coming
mean,
up,
someone's going to get that and they're going to be busy for 5 years. I mean, it locks you in for
Forever.
that long or longer.
Yeah.
and it will have effect on everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because if all the people are busy in one part of the town, everything else needs attention too. So that's why I
That's
think,
right. It's good. It's good for the industry.
It's good for the
Yeah.
industry for sure, but we have to make sure that we don't spend money on stuff that doesn't matter. So that's
Yeah.
why we are really focusing on.
So you're carrying this out with a lot of caution, good pace. You're not going after major jobs. You're kind of like, I mean, or are you bidding any size, anything goes kind of thing?
No, we are. So the thing is, we can bid any size. That's the
You
beauty.
can.
Of it,
You have
right? 'Cause
the
we got 100
capacity to perform it.
We got 100 trucks and 120 people on
Yeah.
the ground as of right now in East Coast, right? So
Yeah.
and Nova Scotia, I think, is the bulk of it.
But as far as the commercial drywall scope,
We are going after. So we
I
have.
mean, you can send as many employees as you need, but you got to eliminate that travel cost because that's going to price you out of the job, and then you need to slowly build up the local crew.
So the way these jobs work is the second you get a big job, right away it attracts the local people right away.
Yeah,
They're like,
well,
okay, we
they
got a
need
big
work.
project, so we got to go back home, right?
Yeah.
No, we definitely have not set any limits. We definitely want to go after the bigger jobs for sure, because together we can tackle anything that's out there.
Yes. Yeah.
And we are not limiting ourselves because we also want to show what we can do. And smaller jobs is where you build your team. Is where you really get the local presence.
With less risk while you're doing it.
Well, less risk to everybody, right? Because worst case, something goes
Yeah.
wrong, we can send guys in, finish it up.
Exactly. Yeah.
But this is where people don't look at. People are never gonna go look at the big job who's a drywaller. They see who's working right across and see the name. Oh, yeah, Soubliere-Trinity is here. I know them.
Yeah.
So we really don't have any limits, and we definitely have enough resources between the two companies.
So you're going to be involved, Steve, in saying, I don't want to bid this one. Like, how much do you communicate with Ontario?
I'm still involved
Absolutely.
heavily on that. So
on deciding what to bid.
exactly, and
Absolutely.
who we're bidding to, and who we're focusing our time
Right,
with, right? Because Dwaine and myself spent a lot of time here over the last few years developing the relationships and feeling out who's the right people to work with. But I also think this is a very good time for the industry to have a new player come in. I feel like it's been the same players here for a very long time.
Yeah.
I come from that side of things. I felt like even when I worked there, I know it was a while ago, but a lot of companies don't treat their employees the way I feel like they have to treat them to retain them. And there's a lot of employees out there, I think, that are just used to it, right? But they're not getting what they should be getting. That's something else I want to look at. Like, I mean, if you're looking after work, you should be getting the supervisor rate. You shouldn't be a journeyman. You should be getting that supervisor rate, for example.
And just the culture and
the culture, exactly.
Yeah,
I find when I worked before, you were just a number on somebody's payroll, right? And something that Dwaine here in Trinity's really taught me over the years is that it's a lot bigger than that. It's not about making money. It's about making relationships. It's about treating your people right. Your people are going to look after you as long as you treat them right. Yeah. I think if we come in here with that culture and we treat people the same way Dwaine has taught me to treat people, I think the people will come. I think after we get a few jobs under our belt and everything goes well, I really do feel the people will come.
Yeah, and good timing in other ways too, and the fact that like a lot of these players that have been around, and the same ties in with the labor shortage. Like, there's going to be a period of about 5 to 7 years here where a lot of guys that have been around are at the retirement phase.
Absolutely.
And somebody's got to kind of carry the torch.
Absolutely.
I see it in difference right now as well. It's not like it was 10 years ago where we're all out there cutthroat and trying to chase the lowest price.
Right.
There's enough work out there right now that I'm trying to talk to my customers and say, I want to build the relationship with you now, so when this boom is over, we still have this together. We're looking after each other, because that's what I see right now with a lot of the GCs we work with. We got to look after each other, or we can't get these jobs done the way they are now. So I see a
more
difference.
Selective and long term. Where you almost kind of bypass, like, certain GCs are not even going to touch
some we won't
schools. You're just
some
race to the bottom.
We have no interest in working for you. You don't fit our mold. You're not what we're looking for as a partner.
Yeah,
and I mean
that's interesting. So how long do you think it took for you, Dwaine, like, to be able to understand fully, like, the model you're going for? And, like, because you do sometimes have to take on work or bid stuff that you don't want necessarily.
I've been there.
It takes a while to get to that point where you can be selective.
I took every single job that I could get. I tried to pay the bills with everything I could do. I was taken advantage of a lot of the times by GCs out there, and I started to see the ones that were willing to look after me and wanted me to succeed. And
that's I think a lot of contractors, they have to go through that grueling process before you can see the seeds that are going to be healthy.
And I mean, it taught me a lot. You know what I mean? I bet. I tell a lot of my people, until you feel that sick feeling in your stomach when something's going wrong, you're not going to succeed, because you don't understand.
It's almost like you have the sensor now.
Yeah,
you can feel it right in your soul.
In a way. Yeah, you do, in a way. Yeah. And I mean, it's just I've watched the industry grow the last few years. I hated those days where everything was about schedule. I don't know if you remember that little 10-year span where everything was like, we can get it built the fastest for you. And everybody was jumping down that road. And all I stood back was watch some of the worst buildings I ever watched get built. Yeah. Just so they could say they opened the doors on that day that we
and
promised.
And maintenance costs and repairs.
Oh my God, there's buildings that I know that they're getting ready to
and
tear down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The things are 10, 15 years old. That's just a shame. Just so somebody could be happy about a schedule instead of...
We're dealing with a 60 to 100-year product here.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, if I was that building owner, I would want people like us in there saying, you know what, we're not here cutting these corners, guys. We don't care about... I would rather look at an owner and say, you know what, your project's going to be a week late, but this is why.
Yeah.
Versus, I met your schedule, but in 2 years' time, you're going to be some mad at me when this starts falling off the walls, or your building is condemned for some stupid reason, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think it's a different time in the industry. I really do. And it's a good time for us. It's a good time to get in with these ones that want to help us grow and are looking for someone to help them succeed too. Because That's just the way I see it going.
It's come a long way too, because I remember even 6 years ago pricing just spray foam insulation in buildings, and we'd be 10%, 15, 20% religiously higher than everybody else.
Yeah.
And then after about a year or so of them taking that lower price and all that kind of stuff, they come back and we want you to price the next building. And we're like, sure, we'll price the next building, but could you guys cover the windows? I'm like, well, yeah, we cover the windows when we spray. Well, the last 2 companies come in, they just spray, and I have to replace all my glass. I'm like, that's why they were 20% cheaper than us, to be honest with you. So
just kept going over. Right?
So eventually, it took a lot of turmoil. Like, I mean, we priced and priced and priced and priced, and we weren't winning a whole lot. And then it was almost like a light switch went off, honestly. And then all of a sudden, it's been great for the last 4 or 5 years, anyway. So
that's amazing. Yeah. So, Karsh, for you, what do you notice, or can you speak on as far as like just the differences you've seen in the markets? I mean, obviously there's the size and the geographic location, all those things, but do you find, like, as far as the relationships here, the people you've met, obviously including Dwaine and Steve, but like similar culture, like as far, and then similar processes and operations models and stuff as far compared to Central Canada? Or?
Well, I will say, like, to add on that is that we, like I said, in Ontario, we are in a smaller town. So definitely everybody knows everybody here, which is very important.
But it's a lot like Kingston, though. I mean, I was just in Kingston a couple months ago visiting a friend, and it's just, Kingston feels a lot like Halifax. Even the, what's the name of the Fort Henry, is it?
It's
just like Citadel Hill. It's almost just like another Halifax, yeah.
Got a beautiful river over there. It's a tourist town, right? So it's quite a bit like Kingston. Everybody knows everybody. And then you're in construction where everybody knows everybody. And so that's why I would say it's quite similar. And to a point where actually, you were saying where, Steve, do you get involved in the decision making of tendering? It's actually totally driven by Steve and Dwayne's relationship. And every Friday we have an ops meeting where Steve and his our coordinator from Atlanta, Caitlin, joins us, and when we go through, what are you guys bidding at? What are we bidding at? Is it good, gentlemen? Is not. So everything is driven through them. We are just, Soubliere headquarters is just a backup, kind of like your data. It's just a backup.
Right.
That's providing all kinds
all
of tools,
the pre-construction,
whatever you
all
need.
those things,
exactly.
Resource,
exactly.
Resource.
But it's all, we want to try new things. We want to get new guys in, but we also don't want to risk your project. So we want to send in somebody wiser that we have known for quite a while to just oversee, and it is on our cost, in the sense like Soubliere-Trinity is paying extra to have this gentleman there to supervise, just to make sure the quality is not compromised until we know the new players are in line, are in sync.
Well, I think that's, to have that one trusted, experienced guy here on the sites for that scope is crucial. Like that's you need that, right?
And what I've noticed is one big difference is that it doesn't take a lot of convincing to send people from Ontario to Halifax. Everybody wants to come here. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So so our boys, like, so what we are doing in Ottawa is just like we're taking turns, because everybody's busy with major projects in Ottawa too. So we're just like, okay, when you're done and you have a transition, we're going to give you a 2 months period where you're not jumping on your next big job, and you can probably go and work up here for a little bit. So there's a little bit different in pace of work, because I think it comes from the shortage of manpower. Ottawa is definitely, we have our shortage of manpower, but there's a lot of players over there. So we see that, but it's quite alike. For me, it was not a surprise, because Kingston and all that areas, I've already seen it. There's a lot more relationships here, which I like. Other than that, not a whole lot different. To be honest.
And have you used some Ottawa suppliers on the drywall side for certain jobs, or is it all local suppliers, or can you speak on that?
I'll rather not.
Yeah, no problem.
But it's work in progress, because we have a lot of relationship with big manufacturers, so big GSDs.
Okay, right.
So
yes.
for us, it's like, if we're doing a project out of town and there's a supplier right there, we have to use them, right? Because you're not going to wait for 2 days.
You've got to have relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But our relationships, like our projects are, like I said, 12 gauge, 10 gauge products. Yeah. We need 40 feet high studs. So a lot of times when
pre-specialized.
Yeah. So when we move to a project we would, like recently, we just bought a whole 40 feet container. We shipped it to the site full of metal, full of all our tools. We bought all brand new tools. We put it in there. When it got there, we converted it into our office. And now wherever one of our foremen goes, that trailer moves with him. So this is the scale we're talking, right?
Yeah.
So, at any given point, we are buying from multiple suppliers.
Yeah, of course. It's necessary.
But our
That's
major
good.
relationship comes with big GSDs, which is gypsum supply delivery companies, and manufacturers, right? So, so Armstrong, we buy a lot from Certainty, CGCs, all Saint-Gobain.
Right.
So, it all trickles, but we do quite a bit of work. We have relationships in Ottawa, with one supplier that take care of us across the provinces, but to be continued.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Sure.
But Stephen, Trinity side have their own relationship. If you guys want to add on that, that's more than okay. But for Soubliere, it's kind of our
Yeah, sure.
to be continued
Yeah,
project.
no, of course. Yeah, I mean, you would have relationships for all the services you're carrying out for Trinity for years.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
And
all
it's-
kinds of local.
I mean, it's a different game we're biting off right now too. So I mean,
Yeah.
we're relying on a lot of Karsh's relationships for this, but this is where he gets to look at us, and we get to open new doors for him down here as well, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
and it was always important for us, like Karsh was saying, he's sending his top people down here right now, but Trinity was built on its reputation was getting the job done, showing up when we're supposed to. So it's very guarded for us the first year. Like I worked too hard.
Right, you want to keep that rep.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose that. So I mean, I trust Karsh with the world, but we're standing back and making sure that this is a good fit for both of us. And so far, we've rocked it out of the park. So
It's very important to understand that as a business owner, we could be very easily be a micromanager. Because when it's like it's your way, it's right and wrong, and then your way, right?
Yeah, and I was talking to someone the other day about this. You have to be so strong-willed to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. Like, you really have to be strong-willed, and so sometimes it's hard to, to balance that within yourself internally, not to or understand, okay, this guy can do that, and I can back off. It's tough to.
100%. So like that's why we've decided, and this is something I've learned myself, right? So if I'm the owner of the business and president on my side, what I think, if I'm in the office every day, everybody's going to think what I think is right. And you don't want that. You want your team to grow. So that's where me and Dwaine had a conversation. We said, okay, Soubliere does things a certain way. Trinity does things a certain way, right? And every place has its own local culture. So we agreed on that we have to make Steve the head of it. For now, we are guarding the company. Soubliere is guarding with our own experience, and Trinity is guarding with their own experience.
Yeah.
But soon it will have its own culture. But what we want to do is make sure that as we develop, we make sure the quality is there, and all the processes are set. So my focus now it's mostly growing, right? I'm basically retired from operations. I'm not touching any operations anymore, and because if I go and touch it, I can do it. But then I'm stopping somebody else from doing it, somebody else from growing into it.
Delegate to elevate.
Absolutely, exactly, right? Yeah. So we're gonna see this grow quite a bit, and that's coming back to that supply conversation. We want to see how it organically grows, and how it goes from there, right? And for us, the first and the most important thing is, what is why do we exist? We exist to do a project, and do the project right. That is the main goal. Everything else will come. As we go. So for now, we just want to make sure that all the clients are served right, on time. Project that we deliver is delivered right, and we are working for the right people, and we're hiring the right people.
Yeah.
And we are giving them the right culture. Especially now, it used to be an employee market. It's an employer market. So we and if you create a company where an employer can come in, can do his work, have a good relationship with people, and can see that he's not set up for failure, I think you will just grow. We will just organically grow, and like just about now, like we are seeing like the request. We are turning down jobs every day. Like our conversation happens with like, we're not pricing this, we're not pricing this, we're not pricing this, and it's just immense.
Yep.
Any final thoughts, guys? Any final thoughts, Steve? Pretty exciting times, eh?
It's extremely exciting. So as this being my trade, it's extremely exciting to
especially for you. Yeah.
Exactly, getting a shot to work with these guys and hopefully grow something great here, just as they did in Ottawa and Dwaine and everybody in Trinity has done here in the Maritime. So I'm extremely excited for this to get going, and I think this could be a good thing for the industry. A shake up is always good, they say. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it keeps everybody on their toes.
No, we're just I'm very excited. I'm happy to see where this is going to go. It feels right. I like the time that we took not to rush into it. We put the right people in place.
Yeah.
Felt each other out first to make sure we're a good fit, and I think it's going to work. So I'm very happy. I'm happy for the province. I'm proud that we're able to take this to the province. I think it's a big deal for the province as well, and we're able to keep more people here, draw more people here, and
Amazing. Karsh, any?
Well, my final thought is simple: is between us, we have a lot of people for a lot of things. Everybody has their assigned jobs. There's a department that's going to handle the drywall, the studs, and the hard cost part of it.
Yeah.
My focus personally would be on making sure that gap between the technology, attracting the right people, making a shifting our youth into trades where we need to be, catching on new manpower from immigration and local immigration within provinces, and making sure the culture is set right, because it's about time we change that toxic mentality that has been in construction, where people are not treated right.
Yeah.
And we are making some serious stuff here. We are creating buildings. 20 years, 30 years later, 50 years later, you can see those buildings there. Let's take pride into it.
Yes.
It has the thought process around construction has to change, and that's literally been my career. All I have done is put people together. I have a famous saying of saying that there is no project managers in construction. We're all coordinators. So I just want to coordinate this, and I think it's a start of something very beautiful. We're very excited. We've got all the support we needed from the province. Yeah. And I have a feeling we'll be back here pretty soon.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I mean, it's for someone local here in the industry, and obviously with us, with the show here, it's exciting news, and it's great to see. It's great to see someone with so much energy and passion, and then you have an innovative touch. Those are the things that are going to help change the industry. We need thought leaders. We can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And sometimes it has to do with the demographic. Millennials think differently than I don't want to box people in, but people think differently. A wise saying once that I always remember someone saying is, you should always be working with someone 10 years older than you and 10 years younger. Yeah. And it's so wise, because we do think a little bit differently, and it's great to see.
Well, I'm excited to do that, and what I'm doing is what Dwaine has already done in his company. Steve has already done. It's just that in construction, you're so busy with the noise that you don't get to do this.
That's the biggest problem. You're way too immersed in it to even think about strategy,
So I'm thankful to the guys that work for us, my core construction group on site, and my core office group, my project managers, and Dwaine and Steve, that they're like, you go do your stuff while we do our stuff, right? So it's like, so I'm very thankful that, I get to be the face while everybody gets to do the work. I'm doing the work too. It's not that, but I'm just saying,
different kind of work.
Yes, it's like I'm here talking because of there are people like Dwaine, Steve, Matt, Mario in the office. There's a lot of people that I can say names that are backing us up. So let's get this going.
Yeah. Dwaine, you must have been in your time. You've been around a long time and seen, I've had experiences at different times, or sometimes companies will come in from Central Canada or other provinces, especially in the core of Halifax, and whether they're sub-trade or GC, and sometimes they're kind of button heads, a lot. It's not on great pretenses or whatever, and I can think of one particular job that I'd rather not think about for sure, but just to see this scenario, you guys utilizing your resources on both ends and coming together like this, it's amazing. It's great for the province. It's great for the industry. Maybe like you said, the big players in the drywall industry will have to get used to it, but for everybody, it's a good thing. It's great to see. It's good to see you guys working together, making this happen, whereas a lot of times, like we talked about, it doesn't always happen that way.
And attitudes need to change, and the way of thought process, but even what you guys are doing here now with this podcast, this is huge for our industry. And I have to congratulate you for that. I
appreciate that.
This is a huge thing to get us all talking. You know yourself, 10, 15 years ago, none of us talked.
No, we don't know how to do it very well as men, do we?
No.
Yeah.
So,
we got to learn.
You come around here now, and we all listen to you, and it kind of makes it feel like we're a team.
In it together,
You know what I mean? So, I wanted to make sure I said that to you guys, because I think it's a great thing. So
I appreciate that. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
And us coming down here, I think it's actually good for the local contractors because there's enough work for everybody. So what we are stopping from, we're not really stopping, but what we're doing is we're just balancing it in a way. We are picking up the jobs that are out there that are being ignored by others, and people out of town are coming in and taking it, and that's not sustainable for anybody. Not good for the economy because all the money is leaving, right?
Yeah.
So for us, it's like there's enough work, and we are not out there to get all the job. We want the jobs that we are right fit for. That's about it.
Yeah.
And we just want a fair shot.
Absolutely, everybody deserves a fair shot, and I know Steve from from a little bit from before, so I think you got the right guy on the case there here locally. So
I've been told I'm lucky.
anyway, guys, this has been a treat. Wishing this endeavor and all of you gentlemen the best of luck with it, and look forward to dropping this episode and getting it out there for the province to hear about.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you for having us.
Take care.
This episode is brought to you by Cook Insurance, your trusted insurance broker in Atlantic Canada for 50 years. Insurance is complex, and the Cook team focuses on delivering comprehensive solutions for your construction needs, including builder's risk, wrap-up liability, performance bonds, and project-specific construction. A Navicord partner since 2020, Cook is one of the largest construction brokers in Canada and offers national strength with a local touch. Whatever your insurance needs are, Cook has you covered.
The team at Atlantic Construction Podcast have been able to build a strong relationship with the folks over at FCA Surety. FCA Surety is heavily engaged in supporting the Atlantic construction marketplace and helping contractors to build their businesses, and we can't recommend them enough. While FCA has their head office in Ontario, many of the members of their team have lived in Atlantic Canada and worked in the construction community here. This gives them a unique national perspective with a local flavor. Andrew Cartwright leads FCA's national surety operations as Vice President of Surety. Their knowledge of the bonding marketplace and understanding of how insurance companies view your business is unparalleled. In addition, the depth of their team and reach across Canada gives them the ability to draw on numerous experiences to help clients navigate items like subtrade, construction disputes, liens, and supplier risk management. These are the things that separate FCA Surety from the pack. Make sure to give the guys a call over at FCA Surety for all of your bonding and surety needs.